Surviving Sepsis is a production of the IPRO QIN-QIO.
As a fireman stationed at the Albany, New York airport, Josh Woodward knew how quickly a fire can spread, ravaging everything in its wake. But he didn't know that sepsis could spread just as rapidly and be just as deadly. A fire often starts with a small spark, and that's how Josh's battle with sepsis began. As the infection spread undetected throughout his body, it affected his vital organs and extremities. After 6 weeks in the hospital and months in a rehab center, Josh returned home as a double amputee lucky to be alive. I'm Patrick Archambault with the IPRO QIN-QIO. In this series, Josh and his wife Chelsea share their story in the hope that it will raise awareness about the danger of sepsis, the effect it can have on individuals and families, the unexpected hurdles that patients face, and the importance of resiliency and overcoming these challenges.
So with all the setbacks you had to deal with, how were you able to remain so positive throughout the whole process?
I think one of the bigger things is seeing the good that's coming out of a really bad situation. There's no one simple answer to this all, but none of this is anything that I ever could have planned or imagined myself. This whole time I've kind of just been going with the flow, which just goes to reiterate that I'm not in control of anything, right? But if you can find some positivity, some good coming out of a bad situation, it doesn't make the situation good, but it gives you perspective, So that gives me hope. My family gives me hope, for sure. My kids, my wife. I'm a simple guy. I kind of always have been. When I became a fireman, I was like, okay, at 33 years old, I checked off all the big things, the boxes, and now I just gotta try to advance my career and raise my family and walk my daughter down the aisle someday, happily ever after, all that stuff. And I had everything I needed to make me happy, and I still feel that way. I'm pretty easy to please, and I'm just happy that some good is coming out of all this,
How does it feel to be a role model and inspiration for so many going through similar experiences?
Again, it's just weird to even hear the question, because it's not something I would ever really even want for myself or seek out. I'm always been kind of a shy person, introverted, keep to myself. So if people say I'm a role model, that's great, and I appreciate that, and I'll do my best to and inspire you, and I'm glad you could find some hope out of our situation. But it's just something I've always kind of stayed away from. Social attention seeking and the spotlight, it's just not who I am at all. Even before all this went down, kind of always been just introverted and shy. But hey, if people can find hope in a bad situation, I'm all for it.
So Josh, you struggled with opioid use in the past. Mm-hmm. And what led to that addiction, and what was the breaking point that gave you the strength and courage to take on another battle and win?
It's funny because drug-seeking behavior was just not a part of who I was, or it's not a part of who I am even to this day. I was pretty naive about the whole thing, I knew myself to the point where I'm I don't have an addictive personality. I'm addicted to caffeine, and that's pretty much it. So I was really naive about how powerful these opiates were, and unfortunately for me, it's just kind of something that fell into my lap. I woke up out of a coma already addicted to opiates, and not to any fault of the doctors or to anybody. It's just kind of the situation. It's the unfortunate side effect of these things. It's pretty hard to be on them for a length of time and not be addicted. Where it got to be a problem was when it started to affect our marriage. When we first got together, she's like, I have 2 deal breakers. She's like, don't cheat on me and don't do drugs. Which for me, I'm like, that's easy. I have no desire to do any of those things. I kind of started to realize that I was getting addicted to these opiates, which in the hospital I got Dilaudid around the clock. And I was so naive about the whole thing that I would like joke about it. You know, people would come visit me and I'd be like, oh, it's almost time for my Dilaudid. It's been a few hours. I love this part of it, you know. Just in hindsight, I'm actually embarrassed that I even had that. But I was just dumb to the whole thing. I thought I was stronger than it. I didn't think about how it would affect me leaving the hospital. And, you know, the nurses wouldn't, again, to no fault of them, I was in pretty rough shape, so they wouldn't deny me it when the time was right. And they give you how much based on the pain level you're in. And so there was really not much hesitation, and like, who could blame them? Like, I was a mess. So when I left the hospital, I was prescribed oxycodone. I was on that for about 2 years. And that's when things got really bad, and I found it becoming a problem. So I went to her and I said, just hold on to my pills for me and only give me what I need, you know, for the day or for the week or whatever, because I don't really trust myself with these. I'm worried it might get out of hand. And so she did, and that was actually initially a pretty good conversation, and I felt like we were working together as a team. But then I started looking for the pills that she would hide, and I found them a few times because she would move them around, and I felt horrible about it the whole time. I knew it was wrong, and yet I knew like I didn't know how to stop, because I was, you know, we know with opiates, when you're taking it for pain medication, you need more of the same medication to have you know, an effect. And I was just continued to still struggle with pain, and whatever I was being prescribed felt like it wasn't managing my pain well enough, and it got to be a problem. And she found out that I was seeking out the pills after she hid them. It happened to be on her birthday, so happy birthday for that, right? So I was caught, and she took the pill bottle, threw it in my face, and then just ran out the door. And I was left in the house devastated, feeling scared, feeling defeated, like I had this little white pill had control over me. It dictated everything I do throughout the day. It dictated my whole life. And that night was the closest I ever came to suicide. Luckily, I didn't give into it, because I started to think about my kids and my family, and I said, whatever pain I go through is worth it if it means I get to stick around for my daughter. Kids need a dad. You know, and I took every opiate that I had. I think I had morphine and oxycodone, and I just immediately destroyed them all and got rid of them all. If I'm going to quit something, I quit. I don't, you know, and you have to be careful with that, with opiates and harsh drugs. Like, I don't want somebody on heroin thinking they just stop cold turkey. You can actually do a lot of harm to yourself depending on what you're taking if you know, don't wean off. That's why there's treatment centers for that. But in my situation, it felt like it was the right thing to do. And I went to one NA meeting, rather. This was during COVID time, so it was online, and it was kind of weird, but that was enough to scare me, to keep me straight. I didn't want to, you know, I never felt the need to go back, and I haven't touched an opiate since December of 2020. I got rid of them all. So.
Surviving Sepsis is a production of the IPRO QIN-QIO. Tune in to future episodes to hear more of Josh and Chelsea's story. Special thanks to Josh and Chelsea Woodward. Producer-host Patrick Archambault. Executive producer Teresa Jacobellis. Executive producer Sarah Butterfield. Video recording and editing Louis Cerritos. This material was prepared by the IPRO QIN-QIO, a Quality Innovation Network quality improvement organization, under contract with the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, an agency of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. Views expressed in this material do not necessarily reflect the official views or policies of CMS or HHS, and any reference to a specific product or entity herein does not constitute endorsement of that product or entity by CMS or HHS.